Hi everybody, my name is Andrew Qualkmeyer and I'm going to discuss Agile Project Management today for our Information Systems 550 course. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to define Agile Project Management, provide a history of how Agile came about, explain the difference between current project management and Agile Project Management, and then explain Agile itself along with the benefits and some successful companies that have adopted it. Okay, so getting right into it, Agile project management is defined as an approach to software development under which requirements and solutions evolve through a collaborative effort of self-organizing cross-functional teams and their customers. What's really important about this definition is the self-organizing cross-functional teams and their customers. This is where it starts to differentiate between other types of project management methods or mindsets. It's also important to note that Agile project management is not exclusive to software development or IT. It can be used across a variety of different platforms or products. So a brief history, when you're looking at Agile project management, you could honestly say that it started in 1620 with Francis Bacon and the scientific method. However, a more recent one would be Walter Shewhart in the 1930s. So Walter Shewhart was a physicist and statistician that worked at Bell's laboratory and implemented a plan, do, study, act method to improve processes. Then in the 1950s, William Deming, working alongside Shewhart, further refined and popularized the plan, do, study, act methodology in Japan post-World War II. Here, Deming helped to revitalize the Japanese automotive industry, which evolved into the lean processes or Six Sigma. So there's a lot of similarities between Agile and Lean, but they are definitely different. Then at the end of the 1950s was the first true Agile project that was completed, and that was the completion of a jet plane for the U.S. aerospace. So after that, in the 1980s, Takeuchi and Nanaka conducted analysis of some major corporations that were releasing successful innovation a lot faster than their competitors. What they found was that these companies such as Honda, Canon, and Xerox were not following the incremental process plan or relay approach, such as A has to finish before B, and then B has to finish before C. There's no overlap. And instead, these companies were working as a team from the start to finish and passing tasks back and forth until completed. So when they were trying to visualize how this would look, they realized that the best method or example that they could use would be a rugby team trying to get across the field by passing the ball back and forth, laterally and backwards in order to score a point. And hence they termed or coined this method as the rugby approach. Then in the 1990s, lightweight practices started to get a lot of attention because there was these companies that were trying to improve processes and get away from the more heavy methods that were considered to be overregulated, planned, and micromanaged. So some of these methods that you might be aware of would be the rapid application development, unified processes, dynamic systems development method, Scrum, extreme programming, and future-driven development. Like I said, the most popular of these is probably Scrum, which focuses on accomplishing difficult projects in a short period of time, which was developed by Jeff Sutherland. Then in 2001, 17 developers met together to kind of align all these lightweight methods or approaches and actually define them. So what they came up with is the term Agile. From there, these developers developed a manifesto for Agile software development, which laid out 4 key values that everyone agreed on. Shortly after that, they published 12 operating principles to Agile, which kind of describes what Agile really is all about. From there, then they created an Agile Alliance, which is still in existence today, and Agile Project Management is recognized across project management field and is actually starting to be implemented into testing of certifications. So as I said, the manifesto was published in 2001, and that lays out that individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. Working software is more important than comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiations. And responding to changes is more important than following a plan. So while all of these are valued, they definitely value the ones that are on the left over the ones that are on the right. From there, the Agile principles were created. With the Agile principles, the number one highest priority is satisfying the customer through early and continuous deliveries of valuable software. Then you welcome changes even late into the development. 3, develop working software frequently for a couple of weeks to a couple of months. 4, business people and developers work together daily through the project. 5, you build projects around motivated individuals. 6, most efficient and effective method of conveying information is face-to-face. 7 is working software as primary measure of progress. 8 is agile processes promote sustainable development. 9, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. 10, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. 11, the best architects, requirements, and design emerges from self-organized teams. And 12, at regular intervals, teams reflect on how to become more effective. So you're probably thinking, so what? What exactly is this? In order to answer that, really what this is getting at is adaptive planning, evolutionary development, rapid delivery, continuous improvement, and being flexible and responsive to changes. So as I've just kind of laid out what Agile is, it's important to talk about what current project management looks like. So current project management processes, there's 5 key processes, which is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and closing. Of these 5 processes, then there's 47 processes or procedures that are followed in this kind of loop over here in order to truly start and close a project. And this kind of brings up the point of how you have these long-running, overbearing different processes that people wanted to get away from. Okay, so I think that this example here will provide a lot of clarity of what exactly Agile is. So in the example on the top of fixed mindset would be the idea of painting the Mona Lisa, and you do all of your development, brainstorming up front, and then as you start painting, you're literally painting an individual area. So you're going to paint her hair first, and then you're going to finish her face, and then you're going to look at part of the body, and then end up getting a completed product. However, Agile mindset, or this approach, is you start thinking, brainstorming, and come up with your idea. You continue to brainstorm, you develop or deliver a product. So, for example, Mona Lisa touching your face, and then you get feedback from the customer, which says, no, I want something different. Then it's like, okay, Mona Lisa will have her hands folded. Okay, customer agrees. Then you go through the process again, and then you start thinking of color. Of okay, what about red? No, let's go with a darker color. And then you finally get to your final product. So I think this kind of really lays out the difference of a fixed mindset in manufacturing versus an agile mindset. Okay, so I think this really highlights everything that I've already talked about, values, principles, and practices, right? So when you think of agile project management, really what this is, it's a mindset. From there, you have your manifesto or values, and then you have your 12 principles. Follow that, you have an unlimited number of practices that you can then adopt in order to fit whatever product that you're trying to work on. Next, I'm going to talk about the Agile methodology. The example in front of us is from Avnish Sharma, who works for an app developer that works for Android, develops apps for Android. Avnish is extremely familiar with the Agile methodology, especially as it pertains to developing apps rapidly and getting into the market. So this example is really good here. If you look at a sprint, think about that as developing something really quickly. This could be between 2 weeks to a couple months. So in between each sprint, you're still going to follow a plan, design, build, test, and review process followed by a launch. In between these, though, is where you're going to interact with the customer and further refine requirements or make adjustments. So when you think of our first engagement, this might be where you're discovering, you're creating a strategy, getting information architecture, using user experience in order to develop what you're trying to, or what you think you want to develop. Followed by your next engagement, which you will start to plan and develop a prototype, do some development testing, design, and quality, and then you'll launch that and then further refine it as long as you need to. Next, I'm going to talk about why Agile. What are the benefits, right? So Agile is a mindset, not a process. Steve Deming from Forbes wrote, "Some companies have adopted Agile and implemented it as a process that can be controlled. However, as we can look at values, we know that this does not work." A perfect example would be GE in 2012. They attempted to adopt this, however, tried to control it as a process, and that's really not what it's designed to do. Next, Agile allows for swift return on investment. What I mean by that is through the continuous improvement and continuous feedback, you're able to realize your return a lot faster as opposed to a long-term development, and you don't see anything until you actually launch. Third thing that Agile does is it reduces risk. So as you can see on the charts to the side here, when you have these big programs or development jobs, the longer that it lasts and the increased value cost, you carry a lot of risk with that. However, on Agile, you have a lot of these incremental, small phases, and risk is a lot smaller then. Fourth positive, or why Agile should be adapted, is that it's one team from start to finish. So this is really significant because you're not sharing resources. Oftentimes you have team members that are cross-functional, so they can do multiple jobs. And as the team continues to progress, they all develop together and make them stronger for the next project and the next one after that. The fifth positive note is that you are developing things and getting to market faster so that you can get that user feedback quickly. And the sixth thing is honestly team morale. So there was an article that Daria Wrigley wrote for HBR, "Bureaucracy Can Drain Your Economy's Energy. Agile Can Restore It." It stated that 85% of people in the world reported they feel disengaged from their work or unhappy about their jobs. However, he believed that Agile is a way to combat that from people just leaving the workforce. He found that 2/3 of Agile practitioners report higher team morale, increased productivity, greater ability to manage changing priorities, and faster time to market than they were existing before. With this being another source that says Agile can bring out the best of the individuals, it can be a good methodology to look at for a company, especially as requests for delivery become shorter and shorter. So next up is showing you some successful Agile organizations. Some that I kind of stumbled upon, obviously, are SpaceX, Tesla, Amazon, and the list goes on. Of the listed companies here, their collective market cap is $2.4 trillion in the market right now, and a lot of that has to do with their ability to get things on the market fast. And that's a lot of it is contributed to being able to adopt Agile as fast as they can. As we close out here, some questions that I have for you. What are your thoughts on the benefits of adapting Agile project management that I might not have caught? How would you make a pitch to management about adopting this type of mindset? And is anyone currently practicing Agile but didn't know it? If so, can you please provide some insight on your thoughts on this mindset? Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And followed up are references that I'll leave on the page for a few seconds.